What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, just another PokeTuber coach of the coach of your Piedmont Triad Kickers, coming at you today with our Season 2 draft analysis for the KCDL, the King's Crown Draft League. Even though this is Season 2, this is our first time participating in this league. We were invited by Jarl the King, who's the host of the league, so thank you for inviting us. We played him in the NBBL Summerfest, but around that time my OBS crashed, so that game just like lost its history. But after that game, me and him got to talking, and he eventually invited me to this league, which once again I really appreciate. So just a little bit about like the rules of this league and how it works. We were granted 120 points to draft 9 to 11 Pokemon. I'm just tell you guys straight up, most people, I don't think anyone actually drafted a whole 11 and kept it at least. But yeah, we were given 120 points, 9 to 11 Pokemon. We had 30 points altogether to draft 1 to 2 Terra Captains, which I wish I would have read the rules, because during the draft I actually tried to get 3 Terra Captains, and I found out we only allowed 2, and I was like, okay, well, it is what it is, right? But I feel like we still, not to spoil anything, but I feel like we were able to make the draft work though. This league is 8 weeks and then playoffs. I wasn't able to actually, I'm pretty sure it's in the rules, I just gotta read it, but I didn't really check to see if the league is necessarily upload required. With the schedule, like there's a schedule if you are uploading. I just can't remember if it's actually upload required or if it's not. I'm pretty sure it is upload required, but even if it's not, if you are uploading there, I know there's a schedule, I believe. So yeah, we're gonna be uploading all these games obviously, but it's because of that schedule we're releasing this video today instead of like earlier in the week. So just know we are on a schedule. So your boy ended up in a rather interesting draft spot. I ended up number six overall, out of 12 coaches. The only coaches I've actually played before in this league are Shadow Glade, Nova Blader, Dashing Sceptile, and Pup. The rest of these guys are guys that some of them I've been in drafts with, just didn't get a punch to play them. Some of them I've never been in a draft with, so this is my first time being introduced to them. So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of a background on the draft. So going into our round 1 pick, so the way it works is you're allowed 1 or 2 Ubers on your team. So you have tiers. You have the platinum tier, which is basically like the best, the cream of the crop in regards to Ubers. You have the gold tier, which is, they're not as crazy good as the platinums, but they're still respectably good. And you have silvers, and then you have bronze. So bronze are like, if you're familiar with Smogon, like bronze are like Pokemon that could maybe sneak their way into OU, but they're still Ubers, or well, not OU, but like I think it's called like Ubers BL, like, so you're like right above OU but like below Ubers type thing. And I think like silver has some of those Pokemon as well. So the way it works, you're allowed either 1 platinum, 1 gold with 1 bronze, 2 silvers, or 2 bronze. I don't think anyone did the 2 bronze. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do 2 bronze. So yeah, but yeah, like you're allowed 1 Uber or 2. It just depends if you want to get a platinum or not. So if the thumbnail didn't give it away, we decided to go with a platinum, which is none other than Ruby the Groudon, paying homage to, well, the game it came from, and I mean, Rubies are red, right? So Groudon is here to do, it's like a jack of all trades, kind of. You can be a bulky physical attacker because of that base 150 attack and the 140 defense, and this thing does get bulk up if I'm not mistaken, so you can like, boost up and, take advantage of that. He's not the fastest thing in the world because he has 90 speed, but relative to most Ubers, that's actually like average, so it's not a bad thing when you really think about it. Especially considering it does have staying power. Like I said, it has 140 defense, 100 HP, then you also have 90 Spit F, so you invest into that Spit F, it can have good staying power because once again, it does get bulk up, so you can be like max Spit F and then just be bulking up, right? This Pokemon also has a usable special attack stat, which is 100. So, you can use this thing for different things. It could be a physical attacker, a special attacker, a mix attacker. You can run support because it does get Stealth Rock and Will-O-Wisp, so you can take advantage of that, of its bulk, and like, do stuff like that. But regardless, it's gonna be a very strong offensive Pokemon that has defensive capabilities. So yeah, that is Groudon. Hopefully we can you know, use them as good as a certain friend of mine did back in the BHDL Season 5. Next on the team roster is a... So I decided to go ahead and get this guy as a Terra Captain because even outside of Sun, this thing could be a Terra Captain of someone's team. So I didn't want to play any games with it. So for our second round pick, we decided to pick up Terra Captain Raging Bolt Raiden, so by the way, Groudon was 30 points, probably down to 90 points. Raiden's 21 points, now down to 69 points, no pun intended. So, you know, we're quickly running out of points. And I'm just saying the first half of this draft is going to be kind of top heavy. So, yeah, just letting you guys know that in advance. Raging Bolt is a rather bulky special attacking wall breaker, 125 HP with respectable defenses 91 and 89 respectively, 137 special attack, and considering that more times than not in the Sun is going to get a special attack boost, this thing is going to just be like an offensive threat. Dragon Electric is pretty hard to switch into, a pretty good type combination, and anything we can't like... if we do run into a situation where we're facing a mon that we can't hit too well with this type combination, it is my Terra Captain, so we can always Terra to get ourselves a more favorable matchup. It gets Calm Mind for boosting, it gets Volt Switch for pivoting. Its strongest move that can consistently hit would be Thunderbolt, but it also does get Draco, so you can do big damage, and as well as Thunder. It also gets Thunderclap for priority, which works a lot like Sucker Punch for those who aren't familiar with it. So this thing can do this thing can be an offensive powerhouse on the special side. And the priority is really good because it makes up for the fact that it does have 75 speed, but it's also bulky enough that you're probably not going to knock it out in one hit or anything, or even two hits most of the time anyway. So, you know, we can get a lot out of Raging Bolt in most situations. But yeah, it's my first time using Raging Bolt, and hopefully I can use him as well as a certain someone I know from the BHDL who had it as a Terra Captain in his Ubers run. But yeah, next on the team roster, I don't think this should even be a surprise to you guys. It's the one, the only Carrot, the Cinderace. So, you know, we finally get to use Cinderace on a Sun team. Basically here to be a fast, physical wall breaker, 116 attack, 119 speed. So we get a lot out of Libero because of the various moves it gets, but also because we're the Sun, we could probably get a lot of use out of Blaze as an ability as well, because just imagine this Blaze boosted Sun boosted Power Balls, and God forbid if we're Choice Banded or Swords Dancing or Bulk Up, because I mean, I'm just saying, I know from experience, a lot of most resist will die to a Sun boosted Blaze boosted Power Ball if you're like Bandit or set up. Like, bro, like the damage output is ridiculous. Cinderace is mainly here to be a physical wall breaker. However, we can get utility out of it because it does have access to moves like Will-O-Wisp, Taunt. Then we have the signature move Court Change, so we can reverse hazards. Because I may or may not run hazards all the time on Groudon, so you know, it just really depends. We also get priority with Sucker Punch, Quick Attack. We get pivoting with U-Turn, so you know, Cinderace is going to be able to do a lot for the team, but once again, it's mainly here to be a physical wall breaker. Next on the roster is a Mon, so I kind of went, I'm very dedicated to the Sun. Next, and even then, this Pokemon is still pretty goddamn good, even outside of Sun. Mainly here to be a supportive Mon. It's the one, the only Bad Hair Day, the Screamtail. Bad Hair Day because I'm just saying, look at that mullet. But hey, besides that, Screamtail's a pretty bulky Mon, 115 HP with 99 defense and 115 SPDF. It also has 111 speed, so it's pretty fast too. And because of how photosynthesis works, if I didn't mention this before, Groudon gets Drought, so it sets Sun on coming in, which is great. Raging Bolt and Screamtail share the same ability, photosynthesis, so in said Sun, they're going to get a boost to their highest stat. If I'm not mistaken, you can't boost your HP stat. It has to be one of the other 5 stats, so most times than not, it's going to be the SPDF or the defense, because you can EV the defense to get the boost over the SPDF. I guess we could use speed sometimes depending on the situation, but typically it's going to be like one of those defensive stats, because offensively we're not going to be looking for Screamtail to do the most, albeit it's get like Calm Mind, and I guess you could run like Throat Spray, Boom Burst, and do like stored power shenanigans, but outside of that, it's mainly here to be supportive because it gets dual screens, it gets Stealth Rock, we can Wish Baton Pass, we get T-Wave for speed control for Cinderace, and even Groudon, because 90 speed is fast enough that if you T-Wave something, you can reasonably outspeed it. But yeah, Screamtail's really here to play support, and I'm not really gonna try to like drag out the Screamtail intro. And then next, so at this point we only have 40 points left after picking 4 Pokemon, and the limit is 9. Not the limit. The limits are 9 as the lowest, 11 as the highest. So, you know, we have our work cut out for us to fill out the rest of this draft, but trust me, we always had faith. Even though the next round pick is rather expensive, like I said, we weren't really top heavy for the first half of this draft because our next round pick is none other than I'm Destroyer, the Walking Wake. So at this point, we have 24 points left after picking Walking Wake to fill out the rest of the draft. So, you know, crazy stuff, right? Walking Wake, like Screamtail and Raging Bolt, only, you know, it has photosynthesis, so, you know, it's going to boost our whatever stat is going to be in the sun that's the highest. So it's usually going to be the special attack or the speed stat, just depends. Water Dragon is a pretty solid type combination, so this helps Groudon and Cinderace going to be 4 times resist water, albeit most water moves in the sun is going to be weak. Actually, all of them are going to be weakened because we're the only mon who can actually benefit from the sun as a water type. I didn't want to have 2. Normally I wouldn't have 2 dragons, but since we're a water type, we are neutral to ice, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But the main moves this thing's going to be using is like Hydro Steam, Dracos, Flamethrowers because it can be sun boosted, or even like Dragon Pulse to you know, for basically hits that aren't gonna like drop our special attack in case we feel like it's not necessary. Then we do get Flip Turn for pivoting. We get utility like Knock Off, Taunt. This mon as well as my other 2 photosynthesis mons get access to Sunny Day in case we, you know, need manual sun to not rely too heavily on Groudon. I meant to mention that Screamtail gets that, you know, Sunny Day, so, you know, we can benefit from that. And then on weeks, speaking of Screamtail, something else Screamtail gets I think it'd be very interesting, since my team more times than not is going to be faster than the other team. Screamtail also does get Psychic Terrain, which is counter synergistic with Raging Bolt. However, Raging Bolt is also bulky enough that maybe I don't need to run Thunderclap every single week. I can just risk not having it and then just, you know, you guys get the idea. But yeah, Walking Wake is just mainly here to be a fast special attacking wall breaker. Not really much more that needs to be said about that. Cause y'all already should know how Hydro Steam works. We can actually get a boost in the sun as opposed to taking a raindrop. So yeah, I mean you know, water drop. So yeah, get the idea. That's Walking Wake. So for the rest of the draft, the next 3 picks at least, well, few picks. So we have 24 points to fill out the rest of the draft. So as soon as Grace hits, I made a lot of transactions. So what I'm going to do is tell you about the mon I drafted first, and then I'm going to tell you about the mon that I dropped in favor of it. So for the next pick, we decided to pick up, for the first time ever, Vileplume. I was debating whether I should make it a Terra Captain or not. I was thinking it'd be cool to have Vileplume because you 4 times resist grass, so, you know, we can switch thing into grass knots all day, every day. We did need a grounded poison. I thought Effect Spore is a pretty cool ability, and then one of my friends, Pokemaster88, used this thing as a Terra Captain in a non-Ubers league, but it's still putting a lot of work, so I thought it had a lot of potential. Especially since it is respectively bulky, 75 HP, 85 defense, 90 speed F, and it can hit pretty hard even if you don't really invest into its special attack that much, which is what my friend showed me with the 110 special attack. Speed leaves a lot to be desired, but I feel like Effect Spore is a pretty cool ability. However, Vileplume unfortunately did not get a chance to stay on the team because I realized as soon as we got into Grace that the mon I had as a spinner was not going to be that reliable in this format, so I decided I needed a more reliable spinner, so we ended up picking up, in place of Vileplume, the Queen Serena, who Synthesis and Sun, if I'm not mistaken, gives it a lot of HP back. So I'm not even going to bother going into how many points we have. You guys know we're low on points, so I'm going to mainly just be going over the mon I picked in the transactions. However, if you want to look and see how much points the mons were and how many points we had left, feel free. Serena is mainly here to be our spinner, but we can get a lot of it out of it offensively with 120 attack. It does get moves like its signature move Trop Kick, which always lowers the attack stat of the mon that we hit, so it can be good for handling like physically attacking threats. We do get Knock Off to remove items. We get High Jump Kick for like the steel types that can resist us, and we get Triple Axle for like flying types and dragon types as well. And then it does get like some niche moves that, not going to too much detail on those, but just know it can be a little niche. And then she does have good enough bulk with 98 defenses for that we can like, get something out of it defensively as well. And then, like I already mentioned, senses, so we get reliable recovery. So Serena's mainly here to be a spinner for us, but she could be a little bit more than that at the same time. Next on the team roster was, well, I felt like we needed some hazards, some more hazards, and it's just a way to like free up Groudon's some spot. So I decided next I was going to pick up Skarmory, but let's just say Skarmory was taking up a lot of real estate, so we had to get rid of Skarmory. But this thing was mainly here at first to be a hazard setter, a very respectable defensive wall as well. Could really help Screamtail out with like her weaknesses and stuff. But well, Skarmory was taking DOS Bones, and for those of you who are familiar with One Piece probably knows what that is, but if not, oh well, get cultured. But anyway, Skarmory was taking up too much real estate, so we decided in place of Skarmory we were going to actually just pick up Revavroom. A friend of mine, Scorpion, showed me that Revavroom, even without Terra, can be pretty threatening. Same for my friend, good old friend Al. Filters our ability, so the main ability we're going to be running, so I guess you can run Overcoat sometimes too, depends on the situation. But anyway, Filter, basically we take three, I want to say super effective hits are like 3/4 effective. Okay, it's like a weird wording, but you guys should probably know what I mean. We're a steel and a poison type. We do still get hazards in the form of T-Spikes, but something Revavroom can do that Skarmory can't is pivot out with parting shot. So we can set the spikes, parting shot out, or we can also just go for like a sweep with like a shift gear set. It has respectable offensive stats for a physical wall breaker, so 119 attack with 90 speed. So after a shift gear, this thing can more times than not be in the driver's seat. The bulk leaves a bit to be desired. However, my friend Al showed me if you invest into the bulk, this thing can take a few hits, so it's not impossible to make this thing, it's not going to be a tank by any means, but hey, you can get it stay around long enough to do what it needs to do. Poison Steel is a pretty good typing. It really helps out Screamtail because we resist poison and we're obviously immune to steel. I mean, other way around. We resist steel and we're obviously immune to poison, so yeah, Revavroom is mainly going to be here to like set hazards and get on up out of there, but we can do other things with Revavroom like offensively, so don't ever sleep on the Revavroom. Next on the team roster was my original spinner, which is none other than Reginald the Kamala, who was, well, let's just be honest, in Ubers he wasn't going to be doing too much, but he does have respectable offensive stat with 115 attack, and his special bulk is pretty good, 95 spit F with his HP, so you could get him to stay around for a while. But yeah, in the land of Ubers, this thing just has no business here, so unfortunately he had to go in favor of Serena. So just keep in mind at this point, Vileplume, Revavroom, and Kamala are no longer on the team, but we do have Serena and Revavroom. But I did want to show you guys who I ended up getting to replace these guys. And the rest, and my last two picks are mons that stayed on the team. So first and foremost, we decided to pick up Mabostiff. I feel like a dark type in this format is pretty good because most of the Ubers are going to be like psychic. There's a lot of psychic type Ubers, and then get a few ghost types, and in general, because of its ability stakeout, like you do not switch into this mon that well anyway. So for those of you who aren't familiar with stakeout, basically if a mon switches into us as we are attacking, we'll do double damage. And considering this thing has base 120 attack, yeah, it's gonna hit a lot. So it's kind of like a screwed if you do, screwed if you don't type situation, because you can stay in and take a lot of damage, because dark is usually pretty spammable. Or you can switch out and take massive damage. So it's like, what do you want to do? This thing has enough bulk to not just get straight up one-shotted by neutral hits. 85 speed leaves a bit to be desired, but I mean, that's why Choice Scarf is so popular on this dang Pokemon, for what I know. I don't know a lot about Mabostiff, but I needed a dark type, and this is like one of the cheapest dark types, so we had to work with what we had left. And last on the team roster is none other than our other Terra Captain Go of Raging Bolt. It's the one, the only Dusclops, also known as Ken Kaneki. So I don't have a name for Mabostiff yet, but I'll take suggestions, and in the meantime I'll be thinking about names. But anyway, we have Ken Kaneki. If you're familiar with the anime, you should know him. He's a one-eyed guy, which is why we have the Dusclops as kin. For the first time ever, we actually managed to spend all our points somehow. But anyway, 130 this thing is mainly here to be a defensive terror captain. 130 defenses. I feel like in Ubers, I can pilot this thing and, you know, get the most out of him if I do bring him to games. It can also be here as a spin blocker. It just depends on the situation. We have Frisk to help us, like, find out, like, what are these different Pokemon holding. We're here to just be nosy. But yeah, mainly here to use this thing as a defensive terror captain. So yeah, guys, that's the team. I think I've said everything that needs to be said without spoiling too much about what I want to use these mods for, like without being too specific. So without further ado, guys, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please remember to like and subscribe. The bottom sprites just have like all the mods that ended up making it to the final version of the team. So we ended up with a team of 9, but I feel like we have a solid 9. So I feel like we'll be able to make this team work. But yeah, guys, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please remember to like and subscribe like I just said. And until next time, peace out.